Coming up on Currently, Beth Milligan is here to fill us in on the latest City of Traverse City news, including updates on the FishPass and the future tenants of the Carnegie Building. That and more ahead on Currently. Welcome to Currently, where we break down the top local stories shaping our community. I'm your host, Crystal Frost, joined by Traverse City's head reporter, Traverse City Ticker's head reporter, but let's face it, Traverse City's head reporter, Beth Milligan, as we take you behind the headlines and into the stories that matter most. This podcast was recorded on Wednesday, August 19th. The Tigers are 61 and 65, while the Lions are in preseason as we head toward fall. They're facing the Commanders on Saturday, and all I can say is go Lions. Support for Currently comes from West Shore Bank. When you choose West Shore Bank, you're not just choosing a bank, you are choosing a partner committed to the well-being of our community, and you can visit them today on 8th Street or at westshorebank.com. Welcome, Beth Milligan. You are officially on vacation.
I am.
And yet you're working all week.
That's how I take vacation.
Sounds like
it's a working vacation.
Yeah. As I stare over into my producer's eyes, speaking of producers wearing a lobster shirt, I'm wearing a lobster pin.
I didn't get the memo. I'm so sorry
I know.
about the lobster
I'm like,
theme
where's your
today.
lobster theme?
It's in my heart.
Yes, it is. You are officially on vacation, but you're going to be covering the Traverse City Food and Wine event, which is happening all week. So interesting because, you know, if you're traversing social media at all, you're going to stumble upon people going, what's happening at the open space as they've been building for this event?
I remember seeing some post on Overheard about what are they building at the open space?
And they're
building a festival. That's the answer.
It is. It's kicking off on Wednesday, which we are recording on Wednesday, but lots of events happening all through the week. And we will be talking about them a little further into the show. But we're going to start with the future of the Carnegie Building. This is something that you've been covering for quite some time now.
Yeah, we've been. We talked about this on the show a little bit earlier this spring. But there's some movement happening with the future of the Carnegie Building. So this, of course, we're talking about the historic library building on 6th Street, where Crooked Tree Art Center is currently housed there. The city had a request for proposals process for that building earlier this year, and Crooked Tree and Traverse Area District Library were the two applicants for the space. So the last few months have been engaged in negotiations about potentially co-locating there. What happened this week is the City Commission discussed an update, which was that Crooked Tree has actually now decided to exit the building.
Oh, okay.
So they have a lease right now through October 2027. They have asked for a 1-year extension of that lease. So they would be there through October 2028. And then they would leave the Carnegie Building. And after that, starting in November of 2028, Traverse Area District Library would take over the entire building. So it's an interesting development. We don't know fully why Crooked Tree, and this was a pretty significant change in direction because when I had been speaking to the Crooked Tree folks just in the last couple months, they were, I would say, a little bit upset about the RFP process. They really felt they had built a home there. They were a little upset with Tattle having kind of, pushed to come in. They really felt like they needed all the space in the building. They weren't really sure about a co-location proposal. They did say, I had asked Angela Morris, the executive director, to comment for this story. She declined to, but she did say in some emails to the city of Traverse City that they essentially wanted to look for a permanent location, something that would be larger for their needs. So there's a possibility they're looking for something in the Traverse City market. I will say also behind the scenes, there are some significant leadership changes happening at Crooked Tree.
Okay.
Which the kind of coalescing of those things, this major decision about their location and also some leadership exits. Angela Morris herself has announced she's leaving Crooked Tree. So they will be undertaking a search for a new executive director. Christy Wodek, who has been the Traverse City branch leader, has already left the organization as well. So sometimes when you see those things happening, there may be some strategic conversations happening behind the scenes with the board of Crooked Tree. It might be going in a new direction. We don't know. They haven't commented about that, but they did say publicly, or at least to the city, was that they wanted to look for a different location. So they'll be out, and Tattle now has an opportunity to take over that building and come back where they started.
Yeah, I mean, that was the old library. That's the library of my youth.
Same library of mine. They moved to Woodmere in 1999, but they were there for almost a century before that. So they'll be moving back in. And what that looks like will be, they still have to work out the lease negotiation. One thing the city has been, kind of excited about this partnership with the library is that the library has offered to help with the city's Con Foster collection, which is its historic collection of artifacts that is just sort of this big unwieldy beast of things that, Con Foster and others after had assembled. The city has been working with a contractor who's been trying to inventory that collection. It's been slow going. Tattle has offered to help sort of accelerate that. They would help manage the collection. The Carnegie Building would be used in the future, not only potentially to house and show off this collection, but other archives of the city. It would sort of operate as a city museum, research center, community center type of thing.
That Con Foster collection, it used to be in the Con Foster Museum, if we remember, which is the Bijou by the Bay now.
Right.
I remember like looking through that when I was a kid and just being like, what, this guy just collect all this stuff? Like I collect Barbie dolls,
Yeah, it has like a really random assortment of things.
Yeah,
it's diverse. And of course now we have, there are museum curation policies about, for example, Native American artifacts. So the city has been trying to be sensitive about that, going through and seeing if there's anything that should be repatriated or returned to the tribe. But this would be an opportunity to do that. The other thing with that partnership is that Rotary Charities has its 50th anniversary coming up next year. And Tattle wanted to go through the materials in the Con Foster collection to look at things like photographs and documents to see if they could help Rotary sort of assemble this anniversary collection. So
that's a great idea.
Yeah.
This RFP process, just kind of taking us back to when this sort of launched, if anybody who is housed in a city-owned building, is it fair to assume that is not considered permanent, that you may be, when your lease is up, you may be subject to an RFP process similar to what happened at Carnegie? Yes.
And in fact, the city has done that with multiple buildings. We just went through that with the Bijou and Studio Anatomy, the downtown record store, getting that lease to run it as a music venue, a performing arts venue. It's happened with, the City Opera House. It's happened with space under City Opera House where the coffee shop is.
Yeah.
So Clinch Park vendors are another example. So it is a unique facet of government that often frustrates a lot of people who are used to working in the private sector, where it's like you have a lease and you're good to go. In this case, the city's point is really like, this is a taxpayer-owned asset. You don't have a right to use it and make money off it. We need to make sure that, one, it's serving the community in some way, whatever is there, and two, the tenants are paying a fair market price and have a chance to compete for that. So it is something, even, Tattle in the future, however long their lease is, that could be something that periodically comes up.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's also fair to say that community needs may change over decades.
Very fair to say. That does happen as well.
We're going to come back and talk about FishPass, my favorite. I love talking about FishPass, and it's entering its final phase. But first, a word from our lead supporter, West Shore Bank. When was the last time your checking account surprised you, like in a good way? Most checking accounts just kind of exist and hold your money and kind of judge your impulse purchases. That's what, they do. But West Shore Bank thinks that your checking account should do a little more. Their Shoreline High Yield Checking gives you the opportunity to earn more on the money that you're already using every day. Or if you're spending money anyway, and, we all are, right? Their Shoreline Cashback Checking lets you earn cash back on everyday purchases from your debit card. So both accounts come with very convenient digital banking, easy access to your money, and the kind of personal service that really only comes from a community bank, one that's been serving Northern Michigan for generations. So if your checking account has been doing the bare minimum, maybe it's time for an upgrade. Stop by your local West Shore Bank branch or visit westshorebank.com to learn more. West Shore Bank, community banking with modern solutions. Terms, conditions, and qualifications apply. Third-party data rates may apply. Member FDIC, equal housing lender. And we are back talking about FishPass. I feel like we've been talking about FishPass for a while, and its construction process has taken a bit of time. However, it seems to be kind of Is it finishing up earlier than we expected?
It's staying on schedule,
Okay.
which actually in a way is earlier than expected because we had thought with the flooding in April that we were actually going to see this project delayed, and they have caught up and they are on schedule. So this update, which we had in the ticker on Wednesday this week, is kind of about this key final stretch that they're in. So last week, the divers actually started going into the river and pulling out the sheet pile, which is a really huge step. So the sheet pile or the cofferdam is also what's called, was what was in the water. It was pounded into the riverbed and used to kind of hold back the river in some areas create those dry sections where the crews could be working safely in the river without water coming in.
Kind of a good plan.
Kind of a good thing to have. So the parts that the divers already took out were the ones that they could pull out themselves upstream of the fish sorting channel. So what's going to be happening over the next several weeks now is they have to pull the rest out, and they have to use what's called a vibratory hammer. So this is what they use to put it in, and this is what they're using to pull it out. It does create some noise and some vibrations. So to kind of avoid impacts to the surrounding neighborhoods.
Yeah.
They will be doing that work only between 8 a.m. and 5 p.m. on weekdays.
Oh, that's nice.
The work will be going through the end of September. They do have more than 20 monitors in place. So it's just to make sure, the vibrating isn't too much that it affects it, like the surrounding properties, for example, or causes any risk. So far through the whole project, the monitoring has showed everything has been well below the limits. It's been fine, but they will be keeping an eye on that. The fish sorting channel, which is a big part of FishPass, right?
This is so fascinating to me. You know how much I love this.
We've talked about this before.
Facial recognition software almost. Where you can't get in there, little fish.
Not
I love it.
Like a bouncer.
It's like
essentially a bouncer for the Boardman. That channel, which is 400 feet long, is mostly now complete. They've got the headworks in, the channel walls, the water control gates. They've done backfilling in there. So once they have the sheet pile all out of the river, what they call the wet work or the in-water part of FishPass will be done. So then the rest of the work will be the dry work or the upland work. They'll still be doing some final touches on the channel and installing the new pedestrian bridge, but the construction will be staged on the riverbank, so they won't be working in the river anymore.
Wow.
So that will be a big step. Wet work will be done, focusing on dry work. That is going to be happening over the next several months, including during the winter. They keep working during the winter. They're going to try to get the hole in the ground. There's a new research science station that's going to be built on the property near the AT&T building. So they're going to try to get the hole in the ground before the weather turns cold, and then they'll be building the building over the winter.
Okay.
They'll also be doing a lot of landscaping and park improvements there. So they're taking out some trees. Folks will see that still coming up this fall. So don't be alarmed if you see trees coming out, especially near Central United Methodist Church. Those trees have already been approved to be removed. The reason they're coming out is to accommodate some ADA accessibility improvements. And they'll also be pruning some of the existing trees in that property. Now, I will tell folks, a lot of the big trees, and folks, sometimes get upset, understandably. They like big trees. A lot of those have already come out earlier in the construction. However, there will be 73 new native trees that will be planted at the FishPass site, 371 shrubs, and nearly 2,100 live stakes along the shoreline to kind of help stabilize the riverbank. So more are going in, and under the city's tree policy, if you have to take trees out and you can't fully replace the number, you pay a financial contribution to the city for trees to be planted elsewhere in the community. So there will additionally be 80 trees planted in other public locations to offset the loss at the FishPass site.
Well, that's nice. Reminding people about what this, basically, it's like you said, it's like a bouncer for the Boardman. Experimental smart fish passage system.
Yeah.
What happens to, again, using the bouncer analogy, if you're not welcome into the club, are you just the sea lamprey outside smoking on the sidewalk? Is that, where do you go? Where do they go?
This is the first time I've thought of that term, bouncer for the Boardman. I am going to use it now, and I highly encourage the city to adopt it as an official term. But yes, essentially, you're right. I mean,
they're just smoking on the sidewalk.
Yeah. Just got to come back in a cuter dress. But yes, the whole idea with FishPass is that this is a really important experimental research center, not just for our area, but for the entire Great Lakes Fishery Commission. You know, they looked at many sites. They chose Traverse City for this project with the hope that the research that will be done here could be applicable throughout the Great Lakes and potentially beyond. They will be experimenting with technologies ranging from noises to lights to different water level heights. Different fish sometimes like to be closer to the surface or closer to the bottom. Facial recognition, like you said, the sort of fish recognition system. All of those technologies will help them learn what is effective for deterring the things we don't want, like sea lamprey, and letting other kinds of fish through to the Boardman that we do want in the Boardman. So there are many partners in this project. When it is done, which is expected to be next spring or early summer, FishPass will be totally done.
Yeah.
The river is expected to open to recreational traffic next summer sometime.
Okay.
They will have what's called a commissioning phase. So once FishPass is done, starting kind of next summer, they'll be testing the components of the site, sort of making sure they're working. And then researchers, will come in, start working at that research station. The Grand Traverse Band and the DNR, the state DNR, are responsible for making the fish management decisions. So what kinds of fish come through or not.
And how many.
They're in charge of that. The city is in charge of operating the property, which it owns, and maintaining the FishPass site.
Okay.
And then the Great Lakes Fishery Commission is responsible for spearheading the research for the project.
Okay.
So all those partners are working together at FishPass.
It's incredible. It's an incredible project. It's really exciting to see it entering into its final phase. And I just wonder about those fish that aren't selected, though. So you're
Just
basically saying all those fish are going to be in the lower Boardman for a while.
Yes,
chilling.
Yeah, and the real. I mean,
they're not capturing them and killing them.
No, I mean the real goal here is to keep out sea lamprey.
Yes.
Which are extremely destructive to the fish populations. And if we can find things that work here, we have lampricide, but it's hard to apply everywhere. But if we find these other tools, then they can also, again, be used in other parts of the Great Lakes.
It's such a cool project. I'm excited to see it to fruition. Very cool. As far as what's happening this week, I think we all know.
Yeah.
So I'm really looking forward to TC Food and Wine, and the grand tasting is happening on Saturday. There were still some tickets available for that, but they're going fast. And it is so much fun, that grand tasting.
Yes. Yeah, we went to it last year. It was a great time. Again, I think we mentioned in the show before, I think for the average person, like used to going to maybe a lower cost event at a festival, it's a more expensive ticket price, like the $150 range, something like that. But again, it's essentially like all you can eat food and open bar. Yeah. I mean, you get a lot of tickets to taste beverages. They have a lot of NA options if you're not a drinker.
Right.
Lots of food. We saw last year as a kind of a big component of the event is there's always some kind of chef on stage doing demonstrations.
Which is so fun to watch. And then those the food that they made during their demonstration comes out and is shared. So it's not just like a standing the same food all day. It switches over a lot. So I just remember eating and having so many beverages last year, and it was great. It was so great. And you get to try things. So especially if you like trying new things, trying new wines, trying new beverages that way too. I mean, the fact is that you get to try all these great things, and I just think it's definitely worth the ticket price. I want to try to figure out what that. I thought it was something like $90 maybe, but you can go to traversityfoodandwine.com to find out more about those tickets. And if you're listening to this on Friday, there are other events happening Friday, Saturday, and Sunday as well. So if you're interested, get those tickets. Traverse City Food and Wine. Yeah,
and I think we should mention for folks too that we're recording on Wednesday, so by the time this comes out on Friday, we'll have gone to a few things. You and I think we're going to the opening night party tonight. Dirt to Glass, which is a really important industry conference focused on the wine industry, is happening Thursday and Friday. That conference is mostly geared towards business folks, industry folks during the day at the Historic Barnes Park, but on Thursday night there is a public event where people can can come do it for the walk around tasting. We'll have already gone to that. But what I was going to tell folks is to check out the Currently social media.
Yes.
Because you and I are planning to do some live updates of things that we're going to, and you can get some kind of, if you want a little peek into what's happening at the festival, you can
and
check that out.
make your, maybe put it on your calendar for next year too. I think this thing is here to stay.
Seems
for sure.
like it, yeah.
Looks like as far as weather too is concerned, it could be hit or miss this weekend. I need to get to the beach. So that's my other thing I want to get to do. I've been to the beach. I've spent like 2 days this summer.
I know. I have not been to the beach yet this summer. I know. It's been a weird summer. Wet on and off. I just but the weather I think is okay. I have found that I do not, this is just my sidebar, I found I do not trust my phone weather apps. They always show every day a 40% chance of rain and then it'll be beautiful. And so.
Or when you really need the rain, you're like, oh, thank goodness it's going to rain. And then it's like nothing.
Yeah. So I'm just going to assume, for the sake of the festival at least, that everything is going to be.
I think so too. A lot of the things are indoors too. And if you do, if we have the grand tasting and there's a little bit of rain on Saturday, bring an umbrella.
Yeah, and there's plenty of tents and there's all kinds of stuff.
No
It'll be fine.
big deal. It sounds a lot of fun. What else are you doing this week that you're excited about?
I am very excited. So my little kind of last part of my little vacation will be on top of all these great TC Food and Wine events. Is I am going down to Grand Rapids with my sister and nieces on Sunday to see Brandy Carlisle.
Stop it.
I love her so much. I've seen her many times in concert, including many years ago when I worked at the Microbrew Music Festival. I cannot believe, now she's a huge star. She was coming up then, and she headlined the Traverse City event, and it was incredible. I've been a longtime fan of hers, but she's going to be at the new Acrisure Amphitheater in Grand Rapids, and we're taking a little girls trip down to see her.
That sounds like so much fun with you and your nieces
and Emily. Yeah, that'd be great.
That sounds like so much fun.
What about you?
Yeah, I mean, it's just trying to get to the beach and doing grand tasting. That's about it. The other thing is we haven't done a sunset, and we have to do an Old Mission Peninsula sunset.
Oh,
so
yeah.
I think my husband and I are going to try to get that in this weekend too.
That would be nice.
It feels like bucket list.
Do you
time.
like to do that? As someone who has to go back and forth on Old Mission a lot, I love living out there, but the Center Road Overlook, that's a good spot.
That's a good spot.
The Lighthouse Beach is a good spot.
We
Where
usually
do you guys like to go?
Lighthouse Beach.
Yeah, that's a good one.
It's just beautiful and you can't beat it. But that is a good spot, and I don't know. We'll have to figure it out. But it's just one of those things we try to do, and it's like when you get to August, especially the end of August, and you've lived in Northern Michigan your whole life, there is something that happens, I think, to your brain, and you're like, oh my gosh. It's going to get cold soon.
Yeah.
And it feels like you go into bucket list mode. It's summer bucket list. We're all going to die.
It's the panic of the last minute,
it is
closing time by essentially.
Right. And we do know that September is a wonderful time for locals and October is a beautiful time for locals. But there is something about August for me that something switches in my brain and I'm like, you have to do all these things now.
Well, there's a fun fact too. If you go to the Ticker Facebook page, the main kind of cover photo there is a photo I took of the Center Road overlook over the vineyards in August. So that's a sunset on Old Mission.
Well, that sounds like a good plan then. I guess we'll be doing that.
That's a little sneak peek of what you'll see.
I thought you were going to say you can look at that photo instead of going to see it.
Yeah, well, you could do that too, but I would recommend going in person.
I love it. All right. Well, thank you to Beth Milligan for another great episode of Currently. Be sure to subscribe to the show on all the platforms. You can do that at crystalfrost.com. You just go click, click, click. You can also go to your own social media and look us up, follow us everywhere. It's Currently with Christal Frost. You can subscribe to us as well wherever you get your podcasts and watch full episodes of the show on YouTube and on Facebook. Currently is a Compass local podcast produced by Pancake Boy Productions. Big thanks to our lead supporter, West Shore Bank. Start saving today at westshorebank.com. See you next week.